Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Think Clinical podcast. So this is the second part of what we started discussing last week, and the whole idea here is to help any healthcare institution or healthcare organization that's looking to implement AI systems to be able to do this systematically and to draw your attention to very common things that you need to be paying attention to when this conversation comes up. So today we are going to be looking at the other part of it, which is more focused on the implementation. How do you practically implement this AI system? How do you practically roll this out? And the first thing you need to do is that you have to adopt the show, don't tell approach. What does this mean? It means that most organizations make the mistake of creating beautiful PowerPoint presentations, and when they start this whole project of implementing any AI system, all they do is meet groups and do these PowerPoint presentations on what this new technology can do for the organization. You have to adopt the show, don't tell approach, which means instead of telling people what this thing can do, show them. Set up stations, set up the system, do a practical hands-on demonstration of what this system can do, and this usually would whip up interest way faster than any other system. Now, the second thing is now you have to look at how your training schedule is going to look like, and I always say you break this down into weeks because it just makes more sense to me, and again, people just play well with you giving them those timelines of weeks or months or days or whatever you try to do. So first of all, you need to look at your first week. How is that going to look like? If I'm going to be training people, what's the first thing that I need to focus on? And one of the biggest barriers to any AI implementation is in the space of people moving beyond those common misconceptions that I outlined in the beginning. People actually understanding what the role of AI is, and the fact that this is not going to replace their jobs, for instance, right? So you have to use that to address all the misconceptions, use that to address all the fears, because people will naturally become resistant if they feel that the technology coming in is going to replace them in their role. So they will push back and they will make it more difficult for this to be moved forward. But if they truly understand that this technology is going to augment what they do as humans, it's going to augment their capabilities and make them better, they are going to easily adopt that because now they see it as a friend, not a foe. So you have to be very ready to invest a lot of time into addressing these misconceptions, addressing these fears, addressing these hesitancies that people may have. Now, in the second week, I would say it's more of a hands-on learning approach. You have to look at ways to do more interactive sessions with the actual AI tool. People have to be able to feel and use it and see how it impacts their life. In the third week, now you're looking at how this AI tool is going to be integrated into the workflow. So now you're looking at practically incorporating the AI system into your workflow, whatever this looks like. Now, the fourth week is now you are looking at being a champion. You are looking at creating super users. You are looking at people who can troubleshoot, people who understand the system so well that they understand how everything works together and how they can actually get things done. Now, when we are looking at the integration hierarchy, and you're trying to integrate this with your existing systems, you need to look at, first of all, and when I was talking about being ready for this, I talked about data cleanliness and integrity and just how structured your data is. You need to ensure your data flow between systems is on point, right? Now, you also need to look at your workflow layer, which is you have to map your AI tools to already existing clinical and administrative processes. So when you are able to get this done, then it moves on to your third phase, which is you have to minimize context switching between applications. So it means that there should be some form of a seamless flow between all these systems. And you have to be able to consolidate AI insights with existing performance dashboards. So you don't have people going into this system to look at how we are doing and coming back into another system to see how they are doing, right? That being said, there are a lot of challenges that you may face. One of them is whether or not the AI system is compatible with your already existing electronic health record system, right? So you need to make sure that you're working with the vendors to develop native integrations rather than a standalone application. The moment your AI system is a standalone and people have to log back into that separately to be able to get things done, then you're already on the path of distraction. I know that is not going to work. They have to be able to integrate. So you have to talk to your vendors to make sure that it becomes a native integration, not a standalone application. You also have to address issues, and that's another challenge you have, your data security. You have to implement a zero trust architecture and regular security audits. The moment you start going to that level, you have to do it. You have to. The third thing is user access management. You have to make sure that roles that are created are based on permissions that align with your already existing clinical hierarchies. If you assign roles within this new system that are not aligned with what you already have in terms of your existing clinical hierarchies, that's going to be a challenge. And these are three basic, very, very basic challenges that people go through. So always make sure that whatever you're bringing in is ready to integrate with what you already have. So you have to work with the vendor at the beginning of the whole thing to make sure that they are ready to integrate. The second thing you need to do is your data security. You need to make sure that you are implementing a zero trust architecture. And you have to do regular security audits. And the last thing is just your user management, making sure that it aligns with what exists already. Now, if you are doing this and you cannot measure anything, then you don't even know if it's working or it's not working. So you need to have your measurement metrics in place. What do they look? Okay, you have to look at things like time savings per provider per day. That's a good metric to look at. You have to look at documentation accuracy improvements. That's another very good thing to look at, because this flows into your RCM, it flows into the different sides of your practice, and I mean eventually the revenue that comes with your company. You have to look at patient throughput increases. How much has that affected that? You have to look at error reduction rates. These are primary metrics that you have to look at. Now, you can also look at some secondary metrics, which will look at staff satisfaction score, like we did for Peninsula Health, patient satisfaction scores. You have to look at revenue per visit improvements, right? You can look at compliance audits, performances. These are also things you can look at as secondary metrics. And then tertiary, you can look at overall practice efficiency gains, right? You can look at competitive position improvements. You can look at innovation adoption items. So now when we look at some common pitfalls, you have to look at, and these are not limited to the ones you experience throughout this process, but they are quite exhaustive. The first thing is that one pitfall is the technology first approach. This is a problem. When you select AI tools before understanding the workflow problems, and that's why I said you people go in for the tools because everybody has it. It's a new shiny thing in the market, but they probably don't have that problem to solve. So they are bringing it into an organization and they're now trying to identify what problem this AI system is going to solve. So you need to select AI tools. You have to start the process of mapping your pain points first, and then going out there to find the AI tool that would help you with those pain points. The second thing is, we underestimate how much change management needs to go with adopting these new tools. We actually think because the new shiny thing, staff or employees are just going to jump on it, but you need to allocate at least implementation budget to training and change management activities. That is very important. The third pitfall that commonly people would realize is unrealistic timeline expectations. You need to plan a productivity dip in the first 2 to 8 weeks. As staff learn the new system, you need to be ready for that. You need to budget for that. You need to prepare yourself for that. So you need to be careful when you are implementing this system. And you have insufficient data governance, which is the fourth pitfall that mostly is encountered. So you need to establish some form of a data governance committee that will look into this. And the last thing is the vendor lock-in risk, which is most proprietary solutions would limit your ability to be flexible in the future. So you have systems that are just not, they don't play well with others. So you have to make sure that you're prioritizing vendors offering like some form of open APIs, and then data profitability guarantees. Okay, and then so action steps. And in conclusion, for this entire episode is you have to look at your 5-step AI implementation checklist, which is you have to do week 1, complete all your readiness assessments. That's from the organizational level to your technical readiness, right? Week 2, you have to identify your good luck projects, which are the ones that are not too simple to limit the learning value and also not too complex to increase your risk of failure. That's in week 2. Week 3, from your AI implementation team with representatives from the IT, you have to form the implementation team, and that's going to be part of your IT team, your clinical team, and administrative team. All these people have to be playing a role in this whole process. Week 4, you have to create a pilot success metrics and measurement. If you can't measure it, it doesn't work. And then when you get the second month of this, you have to launch a 90-day pilot. As I said, it should be a maximum of 3 months where you actually measure everything. I hope this was helpful, and I hope when you listen to this, you're able to get some very basic insights on things that should shape your thought process when you start going into these processes, and even practical ways to really approach this implementation phase. Once again, my name is Hamza. It's been great talking to you. See you in our next episode.